Welcome back to the deep dive. We are doing something a little different today.
A little bit of time travel.
A little bit of time travel, exactly. Usually we're looking at what's happening right now or maybe, casting a line a few months into the future.
Right, the immediate horizon.
But today, I want to transport all of us, you, me, and you, the listener, to a very specific moment in time. I want you to mentally mark your calendar for Sunday, January 18th, 2026.
It's a date that feels specific for a reason. It's not arbitrary. It sets a very particular stage.
It certainly does. We're going to be analyzing a piece of writing that, in our timeline for this episode, has just been published. It's a retrospective, a blog post, but honestly, calling it a blog post feels a bit reductive.
Oh, massively reductive. This is more of a cultural autopsy, a post-mortem on a very, very expensive idea.
It is. The title is Mark Zuckerberg's Helmet, a love letter to vertigo.
And it is a brutal piece of writing.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely scathing, but also hilarious.
It is.
I've read a lot of tech criticism over the years, and usually you get these very dry discussions about, processor speeds or screen resolution or the walled garden of app ecosystems, the technical nitty-gritty.
The spec sheet breakdowns.
Exactly. This is not that.
No, not at all. This isn't a spec sheet review. This is about the feeling of using the thing.
Right. This is a satirical, almost philosophical takedown of a specific moment in tech history where the industry zigged and humanity collectively just sort of zagged.
I like that, zigged and zagged.
It focuses entirely on the human experience of failure. And not technical failure, like a bug in the code, but the failure of a product to understand what it means to be a biological person.
A person with, an inner ear and a spine.
And a sense of dignity. Let's not forget that.
It's interesting you frame it that way because the source material kicks off with this massive, almost biblical juxtaposition.
It's a huge contrast.
On one side, we have these ancient, high-minded prophecies about an age of abundance. The idea that technology would eventually solve scarcity, solve hunger, solve the need for labor, the whole Star Trek utopia.
The grand promise of the digital age. Everything we were told was coming.
And on the other side of the scale, the author places Mark Zuckerberg.
Just the man himself.
The man himself. And specifically, the author notes that Zuckerberg didn't bring us that age of abundance. He didn't bring us cold fusion or world peace. He brought us a helmet.
A helmet. And let's be really precise here because the author is very, very specific about the nature of this object.
He is.
We aren't talking about a metaphorical helmet, like a helmet of knowledge to shield us from misinformation. That's not it. And we aren't talking about a useful helmet, like a hard hat for a construction site or a firefighter's gear.
No, the description in the text is so visceral. It's described as a literal, face-hugging, soul-smothering, battery-powered helmet.
That sequence of adjectives does so much heavy lifting. Face-hugging sounds kind of intimate until you pair it with soul-smothering.
Right, face-hugging sounds okay, but then soul-smothering is just...
It's terrifying. It suggests a claustrophobia of the spirit. But the one that really sticks with me is battery-powered.
That one.
Because it grounds this lofty, almost religious concept of the metaverse, this infinite digital plane, in the most mundane, frustrating reality of consumer electronics.
The battery life.
The battery life. You need to charge a lithium-ion brick. You can't ascend to a higher plane of existence if you have to plug your face into a wall outlet every 2 hours.
It strips away the magic immediately.
Yeah.
It's like trying to have a spiritual experience, but your phone keeps buzzing in your pocket.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out how that disconnect happened. We need to unpack the analysis in this text to understand why a device that was pitched as the next printing press.
Or the next electricity.
Or the next electricity, yeah. Why it ended up becoming a symbol of what the author calls moving slowly and sitting down.
That is such a fantastic turn of phrase, moving slowly and sitting down. It's the absolute antithesis of progress, of movement, of everything Silicon Valley claims to be about.
It really is. We're going to look at the 3 specific pillars of failure that the text identifies. There's the biological failure, the ergonomic failure, and the aesthetic failure.
But before we get to the nausea, and oh boy, we will get to the nausea, we have to look at the pitch versus the reality, the promise versus the product.
You have to remember the context the author is writing from. Looking back from 2026, it's so easy to mock it.
Hindsight is 2020.
It is. But the source reminds us that the ambition was staggering. I mean, genuinely staggering. Zuckerberg wasn't comparing this headset to a Game Boy or a smartphone.
Not even to the next iPhone.
No. He was positioning it alongside the fundamental shifts in human history.
The printing press. The internet. Fire, practically.
Exactly. The pitch was that this device was the next logical step in human evolution.
Yeah.
We mastered language, we mastered writing, we mastered the screen, and now we were going to master presence.
Presence. That was the buzzword.
It was everything. But the author does this brilliant pivot. He goes from that high concept pitch straight to the specific product vision that was supposed to deliver this grand leap.
And how does he describe it?
He describes it as strapping a toaster-sized computer to your skull so you can attend meetings as a cartoon.
That image of the toaster-sized computer is just perfect. It really highlights the absurdity of the form factor.
A toaster, an appliance. It gets hot. It has a single mundane function. It's not sleek. It's not elegant. It's a block.
It's a block you put on your face. And for what? The payoff isn't traveling to Mars or curing a disease. The payoff is a Tuesday morning budget meeting.
As a cartoon.
As a cartoon, you can't forget that part.
You can't. It highlights the insane mismatch between the form factor and the function. You have to endure this massive physical intrusion, this heat-generating block on your head, just to do something you already do, but in a much sillier way.
The philosophical pitch, as the source describes it, was essentially, reality is overrated. Let's log out of it.
Which, if you're a sci-fi writer, is a compelling hook. We all want to escape sometimes. I get that.
Of course. But the author then asks these rhetorical questions that just completely dismantle the value proposition for an actual human being living a real life.
He just picks it apart piece by piece.
One of those questions really made me laugh out loud, but it also made me nod in agreement. He asks, why look at your coworkers through a screen when you can look at their floating torsos while their legs never load?
It's so funny, but it's also a devastating critique of the core promise, which was immersion. Presence was the buzzword. We were told we would feel presence.
We'd feel like we were right there in the room with them.
But the author points out that you cannot feel presence when you are looking at a torso that ends at the waist. It just breaks the brain's understanding of space, of people.
It triggers the uncanny valley so hard. You're not thinking about the meeting agenda. You're thinking, where representatively are Bob's legs? Are they under the table? Does Bob even have legs in this reality?
And if his legs haven't loaded, what else hasn't loaded? Is the data in his spreadsheet correct? It undermines the entire foundation of trust.
That's a great point. It's not just a visual glitch. It becomes a conceptual problem.
Precisely. And the author goes further into the economics of this trade-off. He asks why we should experience joy naturally free of charge, by walking outside or talking to a friend, when we can purchase it for $1,499 plus tax.
And mild nausea. You can't forget the nausea.
And mild nausea, that's the bundle deal. Joy plus tax plus vomiting.
What a package.
It's a harsh critique of the commodification of experience.
Yeah.
Trying to sell us something we already have for free, but in a worse, more isolating and physically sickening format.
But there is a very clever play on words here regarding the famous Facebook motto.
Oh yeah, this is one of the best lines in the piece.
We all know move fast and break things. It's the classic Silicon Valley ethos. It's on the t-shirts, it's on the walls, it's the scripture of the startup world.
Well, the author argues that the physical reality of the VR experience transformed that motto. It became move slowly and sit down.
I love that because it is so physically accurate to the actual user experience. You put the headset on, you get a little disoriented, your Guardian boundaries grid lights up, and you just sort of freeze.
You shuffle. You don't stride, you shuffle. You take these tiny tentative steps like you're on a tightrope.
You shuffle, and then you sit down before you fall over the cat. It's the exact opposite of dynamic, world-changing movement. It's timid, it's constrained.
And that leads to the source's new definition for the metaverse. The text defines it as a place where anything was possible except profitability.
Ouch. That is a direct hit on the, tens of billions of dollars that were poured into this?
It's a brutal bottom line.
So we have this grand pitch of a new reality, and then we have the actual reality of shuffling around a living room, blindfolded by a computer, trying not to trip over the coffee table.
Which brings us to the next major section of the critique. The author calls it the dizziness economy.
This is where it gets really good. This is where we get into the biology of it all.
This is where the author shifts from the philosophical failure to the biological rejection, the body's veto power. The text notes that Zuckerberg expected dizzying success, but instead he only got the dizzying.
Just the vertigo part.
Just the vertigo part. The success part got lost in the mail.
It is amazing to think about motion sickness as a metric. I mean, usually in tech, you measure engagement by clicks or time on site or daily active users.
Right, DAUs,
Yeah.
MAUs, all those acronyms.
But the author suggests that for this device, the most consistent user engagement metric was how long until I feel sick.
It's a churn metric, but for your stomach contents.
Right, and the source puts it perfectly. People didn't just use the headset, they endured it.
That changes the entire relationship between a user and a product. It moves it from utility or enjoyment to stamina. It's an endurance sport. How many minutes did you last in the headset today?
I made it to 12 minutes before I had to lie down. Good job, soldier. You beat your high score.
It's absurd. It's not consumption. It's a test of physical fortitude.
And the author provides this hilarious step-by-step breakdown. He calls it the unspoken instruction manual. I want to walk through this because I feel like anyone who has tried VR, especially in that era, has lived this exact sequence.
It's universal.
It starts with step 1, put on helmet.
Simple enough. That's the entry point. You strap it on, you pull it tight.
Step 2, say wow.
And you do. That's the thing. That initial immersion, the novelty, the gee whiz factor of seeing a 3D dinosaur or a photorealistic landscape or a spaceship. For about 30 seconds, it is genuinely impressive.
If the first time you see it, it is magic. I'll grant it that.
Absolutely.
But then comes step 3, say, oh no.
And that oh no is a very specific feeling. It's that moment the inner ear realizes what has happened.
The lag, the disconnect.
The disconnect. Your eyes say you are flying at Mach 2 on a roller coaster. Your inner ear says you are sitting on a stationary couch in your living room. And the brain panics. It thinks you've been poisoned.
It's a literal poison response. Your brain thinks, I'm hallucinating, I must have eaten something bad, prepare to eject.
Which leads directly to step 4. Sit down.
Immediately.
Self-preservation clicks in. You need to lower your center of gravity right now. You just find the nearest chair or the floor and you just drop.
And finally, step 5, question life choices.
That is the existential dread that follows the nausea. You're sitting there sweating, a heavy plastic brick on your face, feeling sick. Your eyes are closed, but the world is still spinning. And you think, I paid money for this. I am an adult and I chose to do this.
This was my leisure time. I selected this activity.
It's a brilliant deconstruction of the user journey. It's not a journey of discovery. It's a journey toward regret, from wow to why in under 5 minutes.
It really is. And the author caps this section by saying that Silicon Valley achieved something unique here, something no other industry had managed.
Which was what?
They created a device that was highly effective at simulating both the future and a mild concussion.
That's it. It's that combination that is so fatal for adoption. If it were just the future, everyone would want it.
Of course.
If it were just a concussion, it would be a medical issue you avoid. But by combining them, the user experience meant that the future felt like brain trauma.
It associated the concept of advancement with physical punishment. The price of progress is a throbbing headache and a queasy stomach.
Who signs up for that long term? No one.
So we have the biological rejection. The body simply says no. The vestibular system puts its foot down. But the source material says there was another, just as fundamental problem, a physical design problem.
Right. Even if you were one of the lucky few with a cast iron stomach.
Even if you could handle the motion sickness, you still had to deal with the device itself. The author calls this section a helmet in search of a head.
This is the section on ergonomics. And the author identifies a fundamental flaw that seems so obvious in retrospect, it's almost hard to believe it was overlooked by the engineers in Menlo Park.
And what's that?
He says simply, humans have necks.
It's such an inconvenient anatomical detail, isn't it? Those pesky necks, always getting in the way of innovation.
Apparently it was for the design team. No focus group seems to have successfully raised this issue in a way that mattered. The weight, the balance, it was all wrong.
It was a brick, a front-loaded brick.
It was. And the source suggests that wearing the headset for any length of time felt less like entering a digital utopia and more like punishment for crimes against ergonomics.
Crimes against ergonomics. I love that idea. Like, what did we do to deserve this weight on our faces? What sin did we commit?
It paints this picture of technology as a burden, literally weighing you down, straining your cervical spine, the opposite of the weightless, frictionless future we were promised.
And the author breaks down how different demographics rejected this burden. It wasn't just one group saying no, it was a broad coalition of rejection.
Everyone came to the same conclusion for slightly different reasons.
Let's look at the early adopters first. These are the people who want to love the tech. They line up for it. They're the friendliest possible audience.
They're predisposed to forgive flaws.
Exactly. And the source says these early adopters discovered that VR workouts, which were a big selling point, remember Supernatural and all those boxing games?
Oh yeah, that was supposed to be the killer app for a while, the Peloton killer.
Well, they discovered that these workouts mostly exercised one specific muscle group: regret.
Not the biceps, not the core.
Yeah.
Just pure emotional regret.
You're there, you're sweating into a foam pad that you can never really clean, the lenses are fogging up, you can't see, and you realize you could just do a push-up on the floor without a computer on your head.
For free.
For free. Okay, then there are the parents. This one hit home for me. The author says parents used it once and said, "This is neat," but in a very specific tone.
Yes, the macaroni art tone.
Exactly.
I think we all know this tone. It's that polite, gentle dismissal you use when your child brings home a pasta collage from kindergarten.
You say, "Oh, this is neat. Good job, sweetie." But you have absolutely no intention of engaging with it seriously.
You put it on the fridge for a day, maybe two, then it quietly goes into the trash when the kid isn't looking.
It's the tone of, "I am proud of you for trying, but please take this away now." It signals that the device is a toy, a novelty, not a serious tool. It's not part of daily life.
It's a curiosity, and then it's clutter. Then you have the gamers.
Now, this should have been the core audience, the beachhead.
It should have been. But the source says they liked it, they saw the potential, but even their tolerance lasted only about 45 minutes.
And if you lose the gamers on endurance, you've lost. Gamers will endure a lot for a good experience. They'll play for 12 hours straight. They'll sit in uncomfortable chairs.
They'll drink energy drinks and ignore basic hygiene. Their tolerance for discomfort is legendary.
So if they are tapping out at 45 minutes because their neck hurts or their eyes are strained, you have a fundamental product problem.
A huge problem. But the biggest failure, the one that really killed the metaverse as a business concept, was with the office workers.
This was the core of the pitch, the future of work, the end of the commute.
It was supposed to replace Zoom, replace the office park. But the author describes the profound confusion of workers wondering why their boss wanted them to wear scuba gear to attend a budget meeting.
That image of scuba gear is so potent, it highlights the isolation and the clumsiness.
And the absurdity. You wear scuba gear to survive in a hostile environment, underwater where you can't breathe. Why are we gearing up for a hostile environment just to look at a spreadsheet with Bob from accounting?
It implies that the digital office is an unnatural place to be. You need life support just to exist there. You have to seal yourself off from the breathable air of the real office to go into this murky, disorienting digital water.
And finally, the largest demographic of all, normal people, the non-techies, the mainstream.
Their reaction was the simplest and the most damning.
The source says they looked at it, they understood the pitch, and they thought, I already don't like Zoom. Why would I want Zoom with nausea?
It's a logic that is impossible to argue with. It's so clean and so devastating.
If you take a video call, which is already fatiguing, we all know Zoom fatigue is a real thing, and you add motion sickness, eye strain, and neck pain to it, you haven't improved the product.
You've just made it punishing. You've taken a chore and made it an ordeal.
Which leads us directly into the visual aspect of the failure. Because even if you could get past the nausea, and even if you had a neck of steel that could support the toaster, you still had to look at the screen. You had to look at the people.
Section 4 of the source, the avatar problem, or as I like to call it, the nightmare fuel section.
The author describes the aesthetic of the avatars as Pixar characters designed by HR.
That is such a savage, perfect burn. Designed by HR. What does that even mean?
It means sanitized. It means soulless. It means perfectly inoffensive and therefore completely devoid of personality.
It's the aesthetic of liability avoidance. Smooth skin, empty eyes, no defining features that could possibly offend anyone.
No wrinkles, no scars, no character. And crucially, as we mentioned before, legs that were optional.
We have to talk about the floating torsos again. The text really hammers this home as a central failure of the entire concept.
Because it's where the promise of presence completely falls apart. The source notes that nothing inspires confidence, quite like being pitched the future of humanity by a floating torso with no feet.
You just can't take it seriously. A torso cannot lead. A torso cannot be authoritative.
And it's smiling vacantly, just bobbing there in the digital ether. It's ludicrous.
In a digital conference room that looks like a Marriott lobby designed by aliens.
That description, Marriott lobby designed by aliens, perfectly captures that sterile, uncanny valley feeling of the metaverse environments.
It's trying to be familiar, right? It has the couches and the tables and the potted plants, but it's just off.
The lighting is flat, the textures are wrong, there are no scuff marks on the floor. It feels like a 3D model that hasn't finished rendering. It feels simulated in a bad, cheap way.
The author sums it all up beautifully. The promise was presence, feeling like you were really there with someone. But the reality was haunted we characters discussing quarterly earnings.
Haunted we characters.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It creates this image of these low-poly, jerky, dead-eyed cartoons trying to have a serious business conversation. It completely undermines the gravity of the work.
How can you have a serious discussion about layoffs or strategy or a new product launch when you and your colleagues look like haunted cartoons?
You can't. It turns the meeting into a farce. It turns business into cosplay. The medium actively worked against the message.
So we've covered the nausea, the neck pain, and the haunted cartoons, a pretty damning trifecta. But the source material takes a really fascinating intellectual turn in Section 5.
It does. It zooms out.
It zooms way out to compare Mark Zuckerberg with his ultimate rival in the pantheon of tech gods, Steve Jobs.
This is a critical part of the analysis because so much of that era of tech was founders trying to replicate the Steve Jobs reality distortion field.
Right. The author even references Sergey Brin's Google Glass adventures in Steve Jobsism, which is a funny nod to Google's earlier failure with face computers.
But the focus here is heavily on the contrast in philosophy between Jobs and Zuckerberg.
The author says that just like Jobs gave the world the iPhone, Zuckerberg wanted to gift the world a helmet. He wanted his iPhone moment. He wanted to be the one to unveil the device that changed everything.
But the execution, the core philosophy, was the polar opposite.
How so?
The comparison centers on the concept of friction. The source says Steve Jobs made devices you could forget you were using.
That's a great way to put it.
Think about the iPhone. Eventually, it disappears into your life. It becomes an extension of your hand. You don't think I'm holding a phone. You just think I am texting or I am browsing. It becomes invisible.
Whereas Zuckerberg's device...
The author writes that Zuckerberg made a device you could not forget for even 3 seconds.
It was constantly announcing itself.
Like a needy parrot is the phrase he uses.
Hello, I am on your face. Do you feel my weight? My straps are digging in.
My battery is at 15%. That constant sensory reminder, the weight, the strap digging into your cheeks, the heat on your forehead, meant you could never get into a flow state. The device was always interrupting you.
It was demanding attention. Adjust me, charge me, wipe my lenses because they've fogged up again.
And the design philosophy is summarized so well here. I think this is the core of the whole argument. Jobs removed friction, Zuckerberg added straps.
It's a devastating line, just absolutely brutal, because it encapsulates the entire difference in philosophy. One is reductive, taking things away to get to the pure essential experience.
And the other is additive, adding plastic, adding screens, adding weight, adding software layers to force an experience on you that you didn't ask for.
And there is another maxim comparison in the text. Jobs' famous line was, "It just works."
Simple, confident, the product speaks for itself.
And the source says Zuckerberg's maxim for the headset was, "Adjust until comfortable."
Which is just, can you imagine that on a poster?
The author translates it as corporate speak for good luck.
Adjust until comfortable is basically admitting this isn't going to be comfortable out of the box, but do your best. It shifts the burden of the experience entirely onto the user.
That's it. If it doesn't work, it's because you didn't adjust the straps right. It's user blaming. You have the wrong head shape for the future.
Whereas with Jobs, if it didn't work, it was a design failure. If you held the iPhone 4 wrong and lost signal, that was antenna-gate. It was a scandal. With the headset, discomfort was the baseline. It was a feature, not a bug.
That is a profound difference. One is user-centric, the other is device-centric. The source argues that Zuckerberg fell in love with the device, with the idea of the helmet, more than he cared about the person who had to actually wear it.
He loved the vision. The reality of it was, someone else's problem to solve, preferably by adjusting their straps.
So after all this, we come to the legacy of this helmet, Section 6 of the text. Looking back from our vantage point here in 2026, what is the final verdict?
The financial reality is unavoidable, and the source doesn't pull any punches. It mentions tens of billions were spent. We are talking about the GDP of a small nation. We're talking about Apollo program levels of spending.
It's a mind-boggling amount of money, and the source has that great line about entire forests converted into PowerPoint decks.
I love that image of corporate waste. All those slide decks, all those meetings, all those highly paid executives explaining why this was inevitable, why the strategy was sound, why the metaverse was the undeniable future.
But reality capital R. Reality responded with what the source calls brutal indifference.
Reality didn't care about the PowerPoints. Reality didn't read the memos.
Why? Why the indifference? The source is very clear on this. It comes down to basic, fundamental consumer preferences. What people actually want versus what tech companies think they should want.
And the source lists what people actually preferred. It's a very humble, very simple list. Phones, couches, and not sweating inside a plastic helmet.
It's hard to argue with that.
It is. People like comfort. They like ease. And the source gets even more specific, saying people rejected birthday parties hosted by a cartoon uncle.
That image is just so bleak. It's so sad and pathetic.
It highlights the social awkwardness of the technology. A real birthday party is about connection, warmth, food, shared space, the smell of cake.
And replacing that with a sweating face and a cartoon uncle is a degradation of the experience. It's a massive downgrade of reality. It's not an enhancement.
But the author does grant the helmet a historical achievement.
Oh, really? After all that, what did it achieve?
It proved a negative. It was a very, very expensive proof of concept. It proved that money cannot force adoption, and vision cannot overcome neck strain.
That's the business school lesson right there, isn't it? That's the case study for the next 50 years.
It is. You can have all the capital in the world, you can have the smartest engineers, you can have the biggest marketing budget, but you cannot bribe the human vestibular system into submission.
You can't issue a press release that makes people stop feeling sick.
No. The ultimate rule of tech adoption, according to this source, is this. No one wants to look stupid and nauseous at the same time.
That feels like a universal law of physics.
You can pick one. You look stupid. People wear silly hats at parties. They dance badly. That's fine. Or you can be nauseous. People ride roller coasters for fun. But you can't be both. That is the red line. If your product makes me look like a dork and makes me want to vomit, I am out. No thank you.
And so the metaverse status isn't described as dead, interestingly enough.
No, what does the source say?
The source says it never really lived.
Oof. It was a stillbirth of an idea. It existed in decks and demos and on conference stages, but it never took a real breath in the world of consumer habit.
It never became a verb. We never metaversed. We Googled, we Zoomed, we even Venmo'd, but we never metaversed.
And the final lesson for future MBAs, according to text, is sometimes the next big thing is just a very expensive headache.
A literal and metaphorical headache.
It's a powerful reminder that technology has to serve biology, not fight it. You cannot iterate your way out of human anatomy.
So we reach the outro, the epilogue. The author paints this final melancholy picture of where these helmets are now, on our date of January 18th, 2026.
Where are they?
They are in closets, gathering dust. Their batteries are long dead. They are artifacts of a future that didn't happen, like the Betamax or the Laserdisc, but much heavier and more awkward to store.
Sitting next to the unused yoga mats and the bread machines.
Exactly, the graveyard of good intentions. And the sensory detail here is so evocative. The foam padding smells faintly of ambition.
That stale smell of old sweat and old dreams. It's tragic in a way. It represents so much effort, so much belief, so much raw capital that just didn't connect with people.
The device is just sitting there waiting. It's waiting for the next demo, the next pitch, the next brave soul.
The next person willing to strap a brick to their face, the next believer.
And the final image the source leaves us with is the spinning. Spinning slowly, very, very slowly.
It circles all the way back to the vertigo. The dizziness never really left. It captures the disorientation of the whole era. We were all spun around by the hype, and when the spinning stopped, we were just dizzy and a little bit sick to our stomach.
You know, reading this deep dive into the source, going through this entire autopsy, it really makes you wonder. We started with the prophecy of the age of abundance, a technological utopia.
And we ended up with a dusty, smelly helmet in a closet. It's quite a fall.
It really is, and it raises the question, if this wasn't the device that ushered in that age, what is? Or was the prophecy itself wrong? Was the whole idea that we could or should log out of reality always a trap?
That's the big question, isn't it? Is the goal to escape reality or to improve it? This helmet was an escape hatch that led to a small, nauseating room.
Or maybe, just maybe, the helmet is just waiting. It's waiting for us to forget how sick it made us feel, waiting for the technology to get a little smaller, a little lighter.
So it can try again.
So it can try again.
That is a terrifying thought. The cycle of nausea returning.
On that dizzying note, we're going to log out for a bit. but the old-fashioned way, by just, standing up and walking away. Thanks for listening to this deep dive into Mark Zuckerberg's helmet. We'll see you in the next one.